You know, the interesting thing about the way God works is that he doesn't usually send a marching band to announce his plans for you. There are no flashing neon signs with arrows pointing toward the person you're meant to notice. No, he prefers something far more elegant, far more mysterious. It's like the quiet nudge of the wind that makes a leaf fall right in front of you, or the way the light catches someone's face at just the right moment. The divine speaks in whispers, but those whispers have a way of showing up again and again until they become impossible to ignore. Think about it. There are moments where you cross paths with someone and it feels familiar. You tell yourself it's nothing, just coincidence. But then you see them again unexpectedly in the most random places. The same kind of song plays when they're around. The same conversation topic follows you for days. The same feeling stirs in your heart when you think of them. And somewhere deep down, you begin to realize that maybe, just maybe, this isn't random at all. The world will call it serendipity, but heaven has another word for it, intention. You see, God's language is not loud, but it is persistent. He'll plant little seeds in your awareness, and every time you water them with attention, they grow. A smile here, a phrase there, an unplanned meeting that feels like it was written into the fabric of your day long before you woke up. And if you're paying attention, those moments start to form a pattern. But here's the thing, he doesn't just show you signs to satisfy your curiosity. These signs are invitations. They're invitations to pause, to lean in, and to truly listen. They're not about rushing into something just because it feels good. They're about awakening your spirit to the possibility that God is aligning something sacred in your life. It's the difference between stumbling into love and being led into it. The challenge for most of us is that we've been trained to ignore the subtle. We live in a world that celebrates noise and overlooks the whisper. We expect that if God is trying to tell us something, it should be unmistakable and immediate, like a booming voice from the clouds. But that's not his way. His way is gentle so that you have to choose to notice. It's in that choice that your faith is refined. Because if he made it obvious, there would be no room for trust, no need for stillness, no space for wonder. So when you keep seeing that person's name pop up, when their presence crosses your mind at the most unexpected times, when you find yourself praying for them without even realizing it, don't dismiss it. Those are the threads God is weaving through the tapestry of your story. You can tug on them, follow them, see where they lead. But to do that, you have to slow down enough to feel their pull. Sometimes those signs will come as comfort. Other times, they might stir a restlessness in you that you can't explain. Either way, they are designed to move you, to move your heart toward awareness, your thoughts toward clarity, and your life toward divine alignment. And in those moments, you begin to understand that the whispers of God are louder than the shouts of the world, if only you stop to hear them. Because here's the truth. The signs have always been there. It's not a question of whether God is speaking, but whether we are listening. And when we truly listen, we realize that the persistent, quiet pull towards someone is not a distraction from our journey. It is part of it. And when you finally notice, when your soul finally catches up to what your spirit has been trying to tell you all along, you'll see it for what it is, not a coincidence, not a random series of events, but a divine whisper that has been patiently calling your name. And once you hear it, you cannot unhear it. It's funny how we like to think that life is a series of accidents, that things just happen without meaning. But when you start to pay attention, you realize that certain moments carry a different weight. They have a kind of hidden symmetry to them, like pieces of a puzzle quietly finding their place. When God is aligning someone in your life, it is never by chance. Every crossing of paths, every moment you share, every subtle intersection in your timelines is part of a greater architecture that you can't yet see in full. You might think you simply happened to be at that cafe at the exact time they walked in. You might think it's nothing more than coincidence that you both were invited to the same gathering, or that you randomly sat next to each other at an event. But there's something about these moments that doesn't feel random at all. There's a sense of timing that feels almost rehearsed, as if life itself had been quietly choreographing these meetings long before you knew they were coming. The thing about divine alignment is that it often disguises itself as the ordinary. It's only when you look back that you see how each step was necessary, how each detour brought you closer, and how even the delays were part of the design. God is not in the business of haphazard connections. He weaves relationships with the same care that an artist paints a masterpiece. Layer upon layer, detail upon detail, until the image begins to emerge. But here's where it becomes fascinating. Divine alignment is rarely about convenience. In fact, sometimes it will seem wildly inconvenient. You might meet this person at a time when you feel unprepared or when your life is in a state of change. You might be in different seasons, different cities, or even different states of mind, and yet the connection persists. It refuses to dissolve simply because the circumstances aren't ideal. That's because alignment then doesn't depend on perfect conditions, it creates them. When God aligns someone with your path, it's not just about chemistry or attraction, it's about purpose. There's a reason you can talk for hours without the conversation running dry. There's a reason you feel inspired around them, a reason your vision for the future seems to expand in their presence. Not just passing through. They're carrying a piece of your destiny, and you're carrying a piece of theirs. And when those pieces lock together, something far bigger than the two of you begins to unfold. This is why it's important to treat these alignments with reverence. You can't rush them. You can't force them into the shape you expect. All you can do is recognize them for what they are, threads of a greater story, and honor the space where they meet. It's in this space that faith becomes more than a belief, it becomes an experience. You start to see that nothing in your life has been wasted, not the heartbreaks, not the wrong turns, not the lonely seasons. Every single one of them prepared you for the moment your path would cross theirs. And maybe that's the beauty of it. We don't always need to understand the why right away. Sometimes it's enough to simply stand in awe of the timing, to feel the quiet certainty that you are exactly where you are meant to be with exactly who you are meant to meet in this chapter. Because in the end, what we call coincidence is often the fingerprint of God on our story. And once you've seen those fingerprints, You can't mistake them for anything else. You begin to understand that life has never been random. It has always been aligned. There's a certain kind of peace that cannot be manufactured no matter how hard you try. You can sit in the quietest room away from all noise and still feel restless inside. You can be with people who say all the right things and still something in your spirit feels unsettled. That's because real peace isn't about the absence of noise. It's about the presence of something deeper. And when God places someone in your life who is meant to be there, you will feel that peace in a way that defies logic. It's not the kind of peace that says, I feel good because everything's perfect right now. No, it's the kind that says, I feel safe, even though life is still messy. Around this person, your guard drops without you telling it to. Your words flow without the need for rehearsal. Your thoughts find room to breathe. It's as though the storm of the world slows down just enough for you to realize that here in this connection, you can rest. And it's important to notice that peace like this is not common. We live in a world addicted to urgency, where relationships often spark in a blaze of excitement and then burn out just as fast. But this peace, this deep grounding lasts. It doesn't demand constant reassurance. It doesn't need to be proven or defended. It's simply there, steady and unmoving, like a quiet river flowing beneath everything else. Sometimes you'll notice it in the small things. You sit together in silence, and it doesn't feel awkward. You share a meal, and the conversation doesn't have to be profound. It's just easy. Even disagreements, when they happen, don't tear the connection apart. There's a calm understanding that you're on the same side, even when you see things differently. That's the signature of the Holy Spirit's work. Peace that anchors instead of peace that flees at the first sign of trouble. Now, don't confuse this peace with comfort that comes from familiarity. Familiarity can trick you into staying in places you've outgrown simply because they feel safe. The peace I'm talking about isn't passive, it's alive. It doesn't lure you into stagnation. It inspires you to grow. It calls you to become a better version of yourself, not through pressure, but through presence. This kind of peace holds a mirror to your soul and says, here you can become more. Here you are safe enough to stretch. It's also worth saying that peace like this is often a confirmation that God is in the middle of it. The enemy can counterfeit passion, charm, and even a sense of urgency. But true peace, that's harder to fake. It comes from alignment with God's will, and you'll know it by the way it quiets your fears without ignoring reality. You might not know exactly where the relationship is headed, but something in you knows that it's not leading you away from him, it's leading you closer. And the beautiful part is this peace doesn't just affect how you feel about the other person. It affects how you feel about yourself. You find that their presence makes you more patient, more present, more attuned to life's beauty. It's as if your soul can finally breathe without feeling the constant need to brace for impact. If you've ever experienced that, you know it's not something you stumble upon every day. It's rare, sacred, worth protecting. And when you feel it, you'll understand it's not just a nice bonus in a relationship. It's one of God's clearest ways of saying, here, this is good. You can trust this because at the end of the day, peace is not the absence of struggle. It's the presence of God in the middle of it. And when that peace settles in your heart about someone, you can be sure it's not by accident, it's by design. It's one thing to notice the signs, to feel the pull towards someone, but it's another thing entirely to wait on God's timing. And this is where many of us struggle. We live in a world that has trained us to believe that if something feels right, we should have it immediately. But when it comes to relationships that are divinely orchestrated, God often uses timing as a test, not because he's cruel and not because he wants to frustrate you, but because he knows that what's being built needs to be strong enough to last. There's a reason farmers don't rush their harvest. You can plant the seed in good soil, water it faithfully, and see those first green shoots appear. But if you try to pull it out before it's ready, you destroy the very thing you've been waiting for. The same is true in love. Just because the connection is real doesn't mean the season is right. Sometimes God is still preparing your heart or theirs. Sometimes he's aligning circumstances that you can't yet see so that when you do come together, you're not just ready, you're equipped. And yes, that waiting can feel uncomfortable. You might wonder if the moment has passed or if you've misread the signs entirely. But here's the thing, waiting doesn't mean nothing is happening. In fact, the waiting is often where the most important work is being done. God uses that time to shape your character, to heal old wounds, to teach you patience, trust, and faith in a way that only delayed answers can. Sometimes the delay isn't even about you, it's about them. Maybe they're still walking through something that could weigh down the relationship if it started too soon. Maybe there are lessons they need to learn before they can truly love in the way God intends for them to love you. Or maybe you both need to grow in parallel like two trees rooted in the same soil, growing side by side until the day your branches naturally intertwine. The beauty of divine timing is that it's never just about convenience, it's about readiness. And readiness is not simply a matter of wanting something, it's about being able to carry it without breaking under its weight. Love, the kind that's heaven sent, is not light. It's beautiful, yes, but it's also sacred responsibility. It will ask things of you: patience, sacrifice, forgiveness, understanding. And God's timing ensures that when the moment comes, you won't just feel the spark, you'll be prepared to protect the flame. But this is where faith gets tested the most, because in the waiting, the mind loves to wander. Doubt creeps in and impatience whispers, maybe this isn't meant for you after all. That's when you have to remember what's meant for you will never need to be forced. If you have to manipulate, rush, or grasp for it, then it's not in alignment yet. But if it's truly from God, it will come naturally, like the morning sun breaking over the horizon. It may take its time, but nothing can stop it from rising. And the thing about God's timing is, once it happens, you'll see why it couldn't have happened a moment sooner. You'll look back on the waiting, on the restless nights, and the endless prayers, and you'll realize it was never wasted. It was preparation. It was grace. It was protection from stepping into something too soon and watching it crumble under the weight of the immaturity or unhealed wounds. When it finally arrives, when that person stands before you in the fullness of the moment God has chosen, it won't just feel right. It will feel inevitable, as if all the delays, detours, and pauses were not interruptions, but necessary chapters in the story. Because love that is rushed can burn out, but love that is timed by heaven burns steady. And when it comes in God's timing, it doesn't just arrive, it stays. There's a kind of recognition that doesn't come from the eyes or even the mind. It comes from somewhere far deeper. You meet someone, and before you can explain why, something inside you settles. It's not a thought you reason your way into, it's a knowing. And this knowing doesn't shout. It hums quietly, steadily, like the background note of a song you've always known, but couldn't quite place until now. The human mind loves explanations. It wants to trace feelings back to logic, to timelines, to cause and effect. But sometimes the soul knows things that the mind can't yet translate. That's why when God connects you with someone who's meant to be a part of your story, you can feel the truth of it even if you don't have the words. It's as if your spirit recognizes them, not from the few moments you've spent together here, but from something far older, far higher, as though heaven has already made the introduction long before earth caught up. You might try to rationalize it away at first. You tell yourself you're overthinking it, that you're just projecting. But the feeling persists. It's in the way they look at you, and it feels familiar. It's in the way certain conversations flow with them, as if you've been picking up a dialogue that started years ago, and maybe you don't know their entire story yet. But somehow, in the most unexplainable way, they already feel like home. This is not about infatuation or fleeting chemistry. Those things burn bright and fade quickly. This kind of recognition is quieter but far more enduring. It's the kind of connection that doesn't need constant validation because it's rooted in something eternal. And the truth is, your spirit is better at discerning truth than your mind ever will be. The mind can be deceived by appearances, but the spirit sees beyond the surface. Think of it like tuning into a frequency. Most people you meet will be on different stations, and while you can still hear them, the sound might be full of static, but every now and then you meet someone who's on your exact wavelength. There's no static, no strain, no trying to force the signal. It's just there, clear and steady. That's what spiritual recognition feels like. And sometimes you realize that this recognition is mutual. They look at you and you can sense they feel it too. There's no need to rush to define it or label it because the connection doesn't depend on immediate clarity. It simply exists as natural, as breathing, as undeniable as gravity. You could spend time apart and still, when you meet again, that same quiet certainty is there, untouched by distance. The challenge is trusting it, because in a world that teaches us to only believe what we can measure, this kind of knowing can feel risky. You might be tempted to dismiss it because it doesn't fit into a neat, logical box. But that's where faith comes in, faith that the one who placed that recognition in your spirit did so for a reason. You're not meant to force it, and you're not meant to ignore it. You're meant to honor it, to let it guide you, and to let God unfold the rest in His time. The beauty of this kind of connection is that it doesn't fade when emotions fluctuate. It doesn't depend on constant proximity or perfect circumstances. It exists because it was written into the architecture of your life before you were even aware of it. And when you allow yourself to trust that inner recognition, something remarkable happens. You stop chasing what isn't meant for you because your spirit knows the difference. And you start holding space for what is meant because you understand it's worth the wait. Because sometimes the deepest truth is the one you can't explain. And the greatest wisdom is simply to trust the knowing. When God sends you someone, it's never just to fill empty space in your life. It's not about having someone to text when you're bored or someone to pass the time with until something better comes along. No, when he sends someone, it's because that connection serves a deeper purpose, one that extends far beyond romance, far beyond emotional comfort. It's about aligning two lives so that they move together toward something greater than either could reach alone. The world often tells us to look for the person who makes us feel good, who fits our preferences, who ticks the boxes on our personal list. But God's matchmaking doesn't work like that. His choices are rooted in destiny, not just desire. He sends you someone who challenges you as much as they comfort you, someone who won't let you settle for less than the fullness of who you can be, someone who doesn't just walk beside you, they walk with you toward him. And here's where it becomes powerful. A God-sent relationship isn't always the easiest one at first. It's not about living in a constant honeymoon phase. It's about growth. This person will see the potential in you that you've been too afraid to claim for yourself. They will nudge you, sometimes gently, sometimes firmly, toward the calling you've been avoiding. They will pray with you when the world feels heavy, and they'll hold you accountable when you're tempted to drift away from your purpose. It's in these relationships that you learn love is not just an emotion, it's a responsibility. And that responsibility isn't just to each other, but to the one who brought you together. Your connection becomes a vessel, a place where faith is nurtured and purpose is strengthened. You begin to realize that love at its highest form is worship. It's gratitude in action for the gift you've been given and a commitment to steward it well. And when two people understand this, their relationship becomes unshakable. Not because life suddenly becomes easy, but because they face its challenges with a shared foundation. Storms still come, but you stand together with a strength that doesn't come from your own willpower. It comes from the fact that you're both anchored in something unmovable. This kind of love dove doesn't just benefit the two of you, it spills over into the lives of others. The way you care for each other becomes an example to friends, to family, even to strangers who witness it. People feel something different around you, not because you're perfect, but because your relationship carries the fragrance of something holy. It's the kind of connection that quietly preaches without a single sermon. And perhaps the most humbling part is realizing you can't manufacture this. You can't go out and shop for it, can't manipulate your way into it. It's given, placed in your path. It arrives as part of a divine design, and your role is simply to recognize it, protect it, and grow within it. The temptation will always be to settle for something that looks like love, but isn't rooted in purpose. But when you've tasted the kind of love that was sent to build, to heal, and to propel you into your calling, you know you can't go back. You can't unknow what it feels like to be with someone who loves you in alignment with heaven's blueprint. And in the end, you realize it was never just about finding someone to live with. It was about finding the one you could live for God with. And once you found that, you understand this is what it means for love to be eternal